What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of the new Netflix original movie, Concrete Cowboy. Now, this movie, of course, is directed by Staub. Before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button, as well as commenting below on any video that you watch, including this one. So this story of Concrete Cowboy is the story of Cole, who's played by Stranger Things' McLaughlin. He's an individual who is rough around the edges. He basically is an individual who's getting expulsion from school. The schools can't handle him. And his mother has come to her wit's end, so she decides she's going to send him to Philadelphia to spend the summer with his father, who's played by Idris Elba. Now, with these types of stories, the character of Cole, because he's rough around the edges, doesn't really feel like he's being treated very well, and in essence, he has been treated very well during his whole life. And so when he gets this to his father is an urban cowboy who lives in the inner city streets of Philadelphia, which is fascinating because the whole club that they have, which is an actual club in Philadelphia of horse riders who ride in the inner city streets on the concrete pavements of Philadelphia, as well as they have some land and some stables inside this area that they live. And in essence, he learns about this kind of world of urban cowboys, as well as getting involved with this character named Smosh, who is an individual that is a unfortunate drug dealer who is trying to build his successful career and whatnot. He helps Cole get into this world, and it's basically Cole's coming of age story about him learning the urban cowboy stuff, as well as trying to stay away from, as best as he can, the whole Smosh drug dealing situation. So this movie is fascinating in its own right because it's quote-unquote not based on a true story, but the idea of the horse riding and the group of individuals in this movie is actually a real thing. They're called the Fletcher Street Urban Riding Club, and basically this movie uses, similar to something like The Writer, uses real-life individuals to portray characters in this movie that actually are involved with this group, which makes it for a more real, authentic type of situation. And then you throw like Idris Elba in there and so on and so forth, so you get a very fascinating take on a movie that, like I said, is not based on a true story. And it made me kind of interested because the idea of a western, a cowboy movie, is not something I've always been invested in, but when they do something original like this and they present in a very interesting ideal and interesting look, because when you think of a western, you think of like Nevada or Arizona or New Mexico or something like that, or you think of like big open lands in Kentucky with, cowboys and big open lands of grass and stuff like that. So learning about an actual group of individuals who have land, small portions of land, have kind of a haphazardly built stable, but are still just as committed and still just as loving of the horses and how they treat the horses, is something I actually kind of felt was kind of intriguing, very, very interesting, kind of a cool way to tell a story, because you're still telling a western, a cowboy movie, but you're telling it in a much different, interesting, more unique fashion, I guess you could say. And with that said, this was also a movie that I had a chance to see at the Toronto International Film Festival, or one of the film festivals like that, but I just never found the time. And it's a movie that finally shows up on Netflix, and I was also excited because I love Idris Elba, and McLaughlin has kind of come into his own as an actor, and of course Method Man is one of my favorite rappers and stuff like that, so he's always interesting when he comes into different types of movies. And so it was a movie that was interesting and kind of really looking forward to in a lot of ways, but the press has been really kind of like on the kind of mediocre side about it, which really kind of disheartened me a little bit about it. And I've talked to a couple other people that really thought the same way. And I will say this about this movie, and this is now my review, this movie has some really interesting ideas with the whole urban riding club, the fact that it's inspired and it's actually kind of a true thing. But the problem with the story is the story that wraps around the whole urban riding club is haphazardly done. It's not really that interesting. It's been done a billion times before in different types of settings and so on and so forth. And I just think Cole's story is one of just very samey, it's very tropey. He does some things over and over and over and over to a point where when it gets to its final conclusion, you're like, I knew this was going to go here. It's really something I was expecting. And I just don't feel like the writers and director really had a good concept on how, make the story 2 hours long, which this movie could probably have been an hour and 20 minutes, gotten rid of a lot of the overwrought, fluffy material, and been a much more interesting kind of concept if you had focused on, you know, the ideas of Caleb with the horse riding, and maybe sprinkled a little bit of the Smosh stuff in there, which is his friend who he gets involved with as the drug dealer. I think the movie could have been much more interesting and entertaining, but it feels so overstuffed and overlong that when you get into the horse riding stuff, you just kind of lose interest because it's so much stuff going on, so many different storylines going on. You know, the stuff that really feels real is so overshadowed by the stuff that's just made up and kind of just boring in its own nature. And like I said, you know, Idris Elba, who's one of my favorite actors, every once in a while he'll do a movie where you just kind of question why he's doing it. You understand the concept and ideas of the story and him wanting to tell a story, but he just kind of disappears through a lot of this movie where, you know, he's already a guy that is a neglectful father, and it's really fascinating that his mother even wanted him to go stay with her father, but it never really feels like the story's earned between the father and son because Idris Elba's character is just kind of, he just is not there half the time, and then like he's forcing his son to do things that just doesn't make any sense. And you know, Cole is, like I said, a person who is molded to a certain degree, and to mold him back into a much better person is done by other people, and it's not done by the father. And I don't know, I really felt Cole's story was just kind of it was just an okay story. It really was. It's not Caleb McLaughlin's fault. It's just the story that was written for him. I think he was trying to like move out of the boundaries of something like Stranger Things into some much more meaty territory. But in the end, I just think it was a role that just wasn't 100% written well, and it really doesn't feel three-dimensional in a lot of aspects. It actually feels like a very tropey character and the unfortunate nature of everything. But like I said, when it focuses on the actual real individuals and it focuses on the horse riding and the kind of day-by-day nature of how these individuals work and stuff like that, I think it really it sets itself apart as a very interesting, fascinating, different type of Western. But it doesn't do it enough to me, in my personal opinion. It feels like some of the storylines in that story do feel a little haphazardly done. It feels a little like one note in a lot of aspects. And, you know, the way, like I said, Cole's character is portrayed, it doesn't really fit into this scenario. So overall, I think the movie is fine. I think it could have worked a lot better if it was a lot shorter, or, you know, some of the fluff that was in this movie was taken out. But I think, you know, when you see the characters of the real life individuals in the story, I think they're much more interestingly told. And I think it's a movie that could be much better than it truly is. But in the end, I think it's still an interesting look into a world that a lot of people like myself didn't even know existed. And like I said, you can still tell a Western or a cowboy story, and even though it's set in the inner city streets of Philadelphia, it still can work as a Western cowboy story. So overall, like I said, it's just an okay movie, but it has some really interesting ideas. And yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but at least it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. So but that's it. That'll be my take on Concrete Cowboy. Thank you so much for watching. This movie is now released on Netflix, so let me know in the comments below what you thought of the movie. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What was your overall feeling about it? But otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you liked the video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.